She stepped out of the river slowly, water sliding down her skin like silver threads under the dying sun, her long dark hair heavy and loose across her shoulders. She believed she was alone. The canyon had been silent for hours except for the river's breath and the distant cry of a hawk. Her torn dress lay folded on a warm rock, soaked and useless, and the river had been her refuge, washing away blood, fear, and memories she could not outrun. She lifted her face to the sky, closing her eyes, breathing for the first time in days without terror gripping her chest. Then the water rippled strangely near the bank, not from the current but from a shadow. Her eyes snapped open. Across the river, half hidden behind cottonwood trunks, stood a man, a cowboy, tall, broad-shouldered, dust-coated, hat pulled low. He wasn't moving, wasn't staring crudely. He looked frozen, as if he'd walked into a moment never meant for him. Her breath caught, heart slamming against her ribs. For a heartbeat neither moved, the world suspended between shame, fear, and something neither could name. She instinctively crossed her arms, backing toward the water, eyes sharp with survival. Cowboys were not kind men where she came from. Cowboys took things, burned villages, lied, killed. Her fingers searched for a stone beneath the water. The man finally raised one hand slowly, palm open, voice low and careful, as if speaking to a wounded animal. He said he was sorry, said he would turn away, and he did immediately, facing the trees, shoulders tense, eyes averted. She didn't relax, not yet. She had learned apologies could be traps, but when he stayed turned, unmoving, even as minutes stretched painfully long, something inside her shifted. She hurried, heart racing, pulling on the ruined dress, clutching it closed with trembling fingers. When she finally stepped onto the bank, she spoke in a voice hoarse from disuse, demanding who he was and why he was there. He answered simply, a rancher passing through, said the river belonged to no man. When he turned back, slowly, carefully, his eyes didn't roam. They met hers with something unexpected shock. Yes, but also guilt, restraint, and curiosity that frightened her more than hunger ever had. He noticed the bruises on her wrists, the cut along her temple, the way she stood ready to flee. His jaw tightened. He asked if she was hurt. She almost laughed. Hurt was a word too small. She told him to leave. He didn't argue. He nodded, stepped back, tossed a small bundle toward her feet, dried meat, a canteen, and said there was a storm coming. Said the canyon would flood by nightfall. Then he walked away, just like that. No demand, no threat, no lingering look. She watched him until the dust swallowed his silhouette, confusion warring with relief. She didn't know then that this moment, this single act of turning away, would change the course of both their lives. And as the sky darkened and thunder rolled through the canyon, she realized survival might demand trusting the last man she ever wanted to see again. If this story has pulled you in already, stay with it, because what happens next will test loyalty, fear, and love in ways neither of them could imagine. And stories like this only unfold for those who stay to the end and choose to be part of the journey. The storm arrived with a fury that split the sky open, rain hammering the canyon walls, the river swelling violently within minutes. She ran, barefoot, soaked, heart-pounding, the cowboy's warning echoing in her mind. By the time the water surged across her ankles on the path, panic set in. She had nowhere to go. Her strength was gone. Then a horse thundered through the rain. He was back. The cowboy reined in hard, shouting over the storm, eyes wide with urgency. He didn't ask permission. He lifted her onto the saddle, wrapped his coat around her shaking frame, and turned the horse uphill just as the river burst its banks. She clutched him, not from trust but from instinct, rain blinding her as they barely escaped the flood roaring below. At his ranch, hours later, she sat by the fire wrapped in blankets, steam rising from her skin, watching him move carefully around the room, keeping distance, respecting silence. He brewed coffee she didn't drink, set food nearby she didn't touch. When she finally spoke, it came out like a confession she hadn't planned. She told him she was Apache, told him she had escaped a forced arrangement meant to trade her body for peace. Told him men like him had burned her people's homes. He listened, didn't interrupt, didn't defend himself. When she finished, he said quietly that he had lost his wife to violence he couldn't stop, and that guilt had been his companion ever since. He said he didn't expect forgiveness, only honesty. Days passed. She stayed because she had nowhere else to go. He never crossed a line, never looked too long, never touched unless asked. When men came searching, armed, angry, calling her property, he stood in front of her without hesitation, rifle steady, voice calm but unyielding. Told them to leave, told them she was under his protection. When they laughed, he didn't. The standoff ended only when they realized he meant every word. That night she cried not from fear, but from something breaking open inside her, trust, slow, terrifying. Real. Weeks later, as she prepared to leave, healed enough to travel, she found him at the riverbank, hat in hand, eyes heavy with something unspoken. She told him she no longer believed all cowboys were the same. He told her he never believed all Apaches were either. They stood in silence, water flowing between past and future. She walked away, but not empty-handed. She carried a new truth, and he watched her go, knowing some moments change us forever, even if they last only a heartbeat. If this story stirred something in you, if you believe courage can be quiet, respect can be powerful, and love can begin with restraint, then subscribe to this channel. Because these are not just stories of the past, they are reminders of who we can choose to be.